Why does heavy metal music help me deal with stress? If you've been into rock and metal music for any length of time, you will have heard all the stereotypes, right? It's angry, it's violent, it's just so aggressive. I get that. At least I get why you think that. It sounds like that to the uninitiated. Yes, maybe from the outside. Many teenagers get into rock and metal music, perhaps at a time of their life that's quite turbulent. The adolescent years are never easy for any of us, right? And so perhaps it's because when people get into sort of the more alternative forms of music, parents, grandparents, society at large view that as an expression of those turbulent years, and they'll grow out of it. I've been listening to rock and metal music for more than 30 years. I can safely tell you I am not grown out of it. But the thing that's become more and more interesting to me over the years is thinking about how this music helps me to deal with stress, how it's been a hugely powerful tool in some of the hardest times of my life. I'm not sitting here telling you I've got this all figured out, but I know that this music that means the most to me is definitely one of, if not my biggest well-being tools, and without it, I think I'd be completely stymied. Stymied's a great word, by the way. We should use that word more often. So how and why does heavy metal music help me to deal with stress? If it's something that you use to deal with stress, let me know in the comments below. When you feel more anxious or low or depressed, do you find that you turn to music more? What bands do you turn to more? For me, I think that the cathartic nature of heavy metal music is where the relaxing element comes from. See, one of the things I talk about professionally is how to relax using music when there's no such thing as relaxing music. The term relaxing music gets used as if it's a genre name. So, you see I've got a piano next to me. I've played piano at many events over the years, hundreds if not thousands of events, lots of weddings, birthday parties, corporate events, this kind of thing. And one of the most common expressions that people would use when sending me an email or reaching out to me and saying, we'd like you to come and play piano at our event is, we thought it would be nice to have some nice, relaxing music. Nice, relaxing music. Like it's a genre name, like that's a description of a particular sound, and it isn't. What relaxes me is not necessarily what relaxes you. I think I know what they mean. In fact, I definitely know what they mean because I've been doing this all my life. But the notion that relaxing music is a blanket black and white term for everybody just isn't true. For me, relaxing music might be, I want to stick on Iron Maiden and feel good. For you, it might be, I want to stick on Mastodon or Rainbow or Metallica or something more extreme from the black and death metal worlds. You might find that relaxing. To the uninitiated, it's all of the stereotypes I mentioned before: angry, aggressive, violent. So what is it that is relaxing? What does that mean? I once saw an interview with a guy called Necrobutcher from the band Mayhem, the classic Norwegian black metal band, that talked about metal, or black metal specifically, being like a pressure valve for an individual. Is it the release of that pressure that feels relaxing? See, most people who are not into metal music, when they talk about being relaxed, they are probably picturing perhaps eyes closed, staring at nature, perhaps being by water, perhaps tranquil, quiet, synthesizer-led music on in the background, perhaps like being in a spa, and all of these other sort of cliches and stereotypes. But for metal fans, I think what is actually relaxing is the idea of the pressure of our lives, the pressure of our internal conversation, the pressure of our minds being released somehow. For some reason, and I'm not a scientist, but I've just been around this stuff all my life, some of us respond to a pressure release that is generated by this music. Now, for you, it might be the lyrics. For other people, it might be the music itself. Let me know in the comments below. How does heavy metal help you deal with stress? Is it by learning the lyrics and screaming along with them at the top of your lungs? Is it the weight of the music? Perhaps, we talk about heavy metal music being a loud music. I think that's a cliche. You can turn any music up loud and any music down quietly. Heavy metal is not by definition loud unless we perhaps are talking about the cliche of it in a live environment. But saying that, the loudest gig I've ever went to was Crowded House. That's a true story. Crowded House at Whitley Bay Ice Rink in the mid-90s made my ears ring for 10 days. Anyway, that perhaps has lost me some cool points. Doesn't matter. But the notion that heavy metal is somehow a louder music than others always makes me roll my eyes a little bit at that. It's tired kind of argument. But is it the lyrics or the music that makes you deal with stress? Which element of heavy metal music deals with stress most for you? For me, it's always been the music. Because let's face it, when you're listening to the average death and black metal music, it's very difficult to make out what most of the lyrics are anyway, unless you're the kind of person who enjoys sitting down and concentrating on the lyric sheet and making that part of your listening experience to really immerse yourself in all of the different elements of it. Then great, you might be really into the lyrics. But for me, it's always been about the music and how it makes me feel. One of the interesting things I think we can talk about how heavy metal music perhaps helps us deal with stress is the debate around speed. Now, this is not, of course, an argument or a discussion that is specific to talking about heavy metal music. Any music can be fast or slow. I came across a report last year which talked about some research that had been done around particular BPM, beats per minute, speeds. So they'd taken some music that was all around 60 to 65 BPM, which, if you don't know, is quite slow music, and looked at the effect. They'd literally sort of put, here's my non-scientific expressions coming, like sensors on the brain, and watched for the brainwave patterns as to what was happening when someone was listening to slow music and following their response. And they'd found that on average, slower music, they thought, was more calming on people. But of course, different styles of music can be slow. So in one of my talks that I give to businesses and conferences, I play clips of 3 or 4 different pieces of music from very different styles, a pop one, a sort of synthesizer, ambient kind of piece of music, and a piece of metal music, and a piece of piano music that are all around that 60 to 65 BPM. And of course, some people are more relaxed or calmed by one style over the other. So to me, in that very sort of basic, simplistic way, that suggests that the speed of the music alone is not the sole defining factor. And of course, if you read further in the report that I referenced there, and I'll see if I can post a link to it in the description below, if I can lay my hands on it again, you'll find that, of course, they conclude that, first of all, you have to like the style of music that's being played. Just purely going for a slow piece of music because it's slow is not necessarily going to calm you down. And then we come to another interesting element. Does it matter where you listen to the music? Do you have the same emotional response to an Iron Maiden song when you're driving as when you're walking in nature? Is it always the same way that heavy metal music helps you to deal with stress? For me, I find that where I'm listening to it can have a huge difference in how I feel. And so I'd be interested to know how you feel about that as well. I genuinely think that whether we're traveling or walking or studying, I think the combination of the activity and the location, along with the music that we're choosing to listen to, can make a huge difference. And if you've never experimented with that kind of element of the music listening experience, I would really encourage you to do that, because how heavy metal music makes you process stress and deal with it, I really think is not just the music alone. I think the combination of that is very important, of where you're listening to it, when, and so on. So that's just some of my initial thoughts on how heavy metal music helps me deal with stress. For me, Iron Maiden can be a super uplifting one. For me, other artists, when they are slow, like doom metal music, the weight of that slowness and that heaviness when the drums land can be hugely cathartic as well, depending on what the mood is. It's not just speed for me. I think we're looking at lots of different elements of how they come together. For me, definitely music is more important than lyrics, but it might not necessarily be for you. So let me know, how do you intentionally, and that's a huge thing for me, and I'll talk about that more in some of the videos, how do you intentionally try to deal with music and interact with music as part of your stress management, as part of your anxiety management, or as part of your mental health and well-being toolkit? How does that play a role for you? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel for more on music as a well-being tool, my love of rock and metal, and some piano content as well, because piano is my instrument as well as guitar. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.